Hello. Well, my name is Dartina Dunlap. I am a career counselor in the Office of Career Services here at Governor State University. And today I am going to be talking about what's next. Now that you've gotten your credentials to be a clinical medical assistant or medical coder, what are we doing next? What should we be doing next? That is what the conversation is going to include today. So please, as I move forward in this video, please, if you have questions after viewing it, feel free to shoot me over an email to ddunlap@govst.edu in regards to any questions that you may have as a result of reviewing this presentation. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you create effective resumes and cover letters. As I've stated in other presentations, it is important for you to have an effective resume and cover letter. And how do you do that? You want to make sure you tailor your resume and your cover letter for each of the positions that you are applying for. So you want to make sure that your information is in the order of importance and that you are utilizing your transferable skills into that particular field. This is a new field for you. And so it is very important that you're able to articulate your transferable skills and how they will be implemented in the new role that you will take on. And then, are you utilizing that journalistic approach that we talked about? And I'm not really sure that people understand the importance of the journalistic approach, but just so that you have an understanding of the journalistic approach, I am going to move forward and kind of just talk you through what that is and what it looks like. It's when you take an action word, and that's that list of words that will be utilized in a particular field, and it's a verb because it demonstrates a high level of function. Now, to get a quick list of some of those words, you could simply go to the Governor State website, go to Career Services, and actually pull up a resume guide. On page 5, you will actually see a list of those verbs that you can use to start your bullets with, which also helps when the company that you are applying for is using a software scanning system for the resumes. Then you want to make sure you also integrate the language that is relevant in that particular field. And then you're going to answer a couple of questions. You are going to start with that verb, and then you're going to answer these questions. You're going to answer 2 of at least 5 questions. That would be, what were you doing? Who were you serving or helping? How were you helping or serving them? And what were the results of you helping and or serving them? You could also talk about the environment in which you're helping or serving the population that you're working with. Now, you're not going to be able to answer all of those questions. However, if you answer at least two of those questions, it will actually be descriptive enough. So as we move on, another important aspect of your next steps is going to be identifying and reaching out to people who will serve as a reference for you. You want people who know you in a professional capacity and can vouch for your work ethic. You want to choose people that you are confident will know you in a manner and are able to articulate that in a letter and or perhaps a call from a prospective employer. When you are identifying these references, you want to make sure you send a copy of your resume to them, because you want them to be able to see the things that you've done and the things that they can verify that you've done, and to just get a general overall view of who you are. And that will take place once you have that discussion with them about what it is you're trying to achieve. So you want to have a conversation with your reference if it's a new reference. If it's an old reference, of course, you won't need to have that conversation. However, you do want to send them an updated copy of your actual resume. That's going to be important, and it really helps them to articulate who you are. In addition to your references, you want to make sure that you build up your network. Did you know that more than 80% of jobs come through networking? Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to send your resume and cover letter. It's just to show you that networking is so instrumental in helping you to identify a job role that you would like. Not only identify it, but also secure it. So here are some of the things that you can do to build your network. You want to build a strong online presence by developing a LinkedIn profile. I cannot tell you how important this is, creating you a LinkedIn profile. This will bring many professionals to your fingertips. It will really give you opportunities to connect with professionals who are already operating in the roles that you are aspiring to go into. And it really helps you to start putting the word out that you are seeking a position. It really helps you to be able to utilize that network to identify opportunities. In addition, it helps you to identify people who will serve as an informational interviewee for you. So all of these are very, very important in building your network. So one of the things that I want to just kind of click to really quick and go to, if it will allow me, is to go to the actual LinkedIn page. So we're gonna do that really quick. Okay. So I'm gonna try one more time. If it doesn't go through this time. Okay, so I am sorry, I'm gonna go back from there and I'll go in another. Okay, so clearly it's not going to let me in. However, we are going to just go back to the presentation and continue from there. And perhaps at the end, I'll be able to go in. What I wanted to do is to just show you a general LinkedIn page and how to navigate it so that you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when I say that it connects you with other professionals. Is huge, and it's a really great platform for career development. So as I stated before, you can use it in creating an informational interview. So just for the sake of understanding, I put the definition of informational interview, which is huge, is important. This is a type of interview is conducted to collect information about a job, career fair, industry, or company. It is not a job interview. Instead, is an opportunity to speak with a person working in a field like you that you like to know more about. With an informational interview, you can find out about a specific type of job, a person's career path, details on an industry and or company. Informational interviews are so incredibly important. Informational interviews expand your network and it opens you up to opportunities that you might not otherwise be able to achieve. It identifies interviewers with the skills and positions that you are seeking, who can advise you and who can give you information that's directly related to that industry. It helps you to prepare and do research on a company, and you want to make sure that you prepare questions in advance to the actual interview. So this is what it looked like. If you were to go to onetonline.org, let's try this again. You would be able to actually see some of the things that you can actually do in that particular field. Okay. 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 So this is the actual page for onetonline.org. You can actually go over into the occupational keyword search, and let's just put in medical folders. And we're going to see what comes up. So if you look very closely at this list, you could see medical record specialists, medical assistants, medical transcriptionists, and you can see all of the occupations that are connected to a medical coder. You could, let's try medical biller as well. Let's see if it'll get even closer. To medical billing and coding. So again, you have the same titles that come up, and then as I stroll down, you will be able to see even more. Now, of course, we want to make sure that we go to the ones that are mostly connected to the career path that you've chosen. So we're going to go here where it said medical assistants. You can see they actually have bright outlook, which the word bright outlook simply means that in the next few years, next 5 years or so, that the occupations, the jobs are going to be plentiful in this field. So here you can see the tasks that these people need to complete, technology skills that they need to have, the work activities, detailed work activities, so it goes a little bit deeper, the work context, the job zone that it fits into, training and credentials, like different places that offer more credentials in this particular area. And then you have skills, knowledge, education, and it goes on and on. And this is how you actually do the research for it. This can also be used to help you in creating your resume by looking at the skill set that the person needs. It gives you the wages and then employment trends, and that's based on your state. But what I really like is it actually give you an area right here for job openings. And what you can do is you will actually put in your state And then you can click and put in your zip code. And so it will get you as close as maybe 10 miles to your actual email address that you put in. So you can see here, all of these jobs were posted in the days that they were posted and then the locations. And you see a lot of clinical medical assistant, like the first 6. So this is huge when you're actually doing the research for the particular field that you have chosen. Now we're going to go back to our presentation, and I'm going to talk to you about being prepared with questions in advance so that you could utilize your time with your interviewee well. This is not going to be a time where you are actually asking for a job. This is an opportunity for you to interview that person and find out from them about their job, their career, the weaknesses and strengths that they've experienced. Just getting a detailed account of what this industry looks like. And then a lot of times with an interviewee, they will give you more information than you need. It's about making sure that you ask them open-ended questions that will yield you information and allow them to express themselves in a way where they can be uniquely who they are. That's going to be really, really important with creating an informational interview. How do you find informational interviews? Like I stated to you before, one of the biggest places that you're going to find it is going to be on LinkedIn, but it is not the only place that you can find it. You can find a person to do an interview with. You can reach out to your family, your friends and acquaintances. You want to let them know what it is you're trying to achieve, and you can look for people that way. You could consider doing cold calling and contracting someone through a LinkedIn request and informational interview. But listen, you don't have to just do it through LinkedIn. If there are people that you know of, and or if you go on to an employer's website and you're able to see who the people are that work in that company or that organization, that is also a way to just connect with them, send them an email. You do not want to call. You want to send an email as professional as possible. Reach out to these individuals and ask for an informational interview. Your informational interview should be no longer than 30 minutes. So anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, it would even be okay if you only did it for 15 minutes, but I would think if you're going to meet with them, like face to face, you want it to be more than 15 minutes, but it should not exceed 30 minutes. If they agree to meet with you in a public environment, such as a coffee shop or anything of that nature, you want to make sure that you pay for the coffee and or lunch, whatever they agree to, because you are not actually paying them to do this informational interview. So because they are giving you such rich source of information, you want to demonstrate that you do appreciate that. And so that will be one way that you could communicate that to them. Some of the benefits of informational interviews are as follows. It communicates firsthand experiences and impression of someone in the occupation and is directed by your questions. That's the key verbiage right there. Directed by your questions. So this is an opportunity for you to really find out and identify the things that you want to know about your industry and how to navigate that process. It helps you because you're able to have an interview without the stress of an interview. So it's not like an interview where you're being interviewed and you have to be stressed about how you communicate, what you find out, what you ask. This is a lot less formal, it's open. You're able to be completely transparent professionally. So you want to make sure that you don't cross any boundaries, but that you still maintain that level of professional identity. But you're able to just sit in the moment with that person and really gain that information, engage the conversation and direct the conversation. It's not stressful for you, but it's also not stressful for them. It helps you to be in control of the situation, to really get what it is that you need. You know what it is that you're seeking from that actual interview. So you know how to go about asking those questions. Please remember not to ask them yes and no questions, but to instead ask them open-ended questions, as I stated earlier. Beyond the advantages of gaining valuable career information, the informational interview provides the opportunity to build self-confidence, that's your self-confidence, and improve your ability to handle a job interview. Now, while it's not a job interview for you, you building your confidence as you are getting acquainted with this industry, with professionals who are operating in this role already, will help you to feel more prepared so that when you're in the actual interview, that it is less stressful for you and that you're able to communicate to the prospective employers what it is you want them to know about you and how you will be best able to serve their population and or provide the service. So, more benefits of the informational interview include asking about topics that are typically considered taboo, like salary, benefits, and hours. So those are not things that will actually come up when you actually interview for a position yourself. And that is why you have to do the research, which is why I took you to ONET to just show you a place where you can do a little research there. But this is, remember, doing an informational interview is also a form of research. So that's an opportunity to have more personal discussions about salary and the benefits of that company that they're working for and or industry. You'll find that a lot of times you will get information from interviewees that you never thought you would get. They may share some very tough aspects of the industry and they may share positive ones. More than likely, they will share both. But if you find that both are not being shared, you can always introduce that question into the equation to yield more information. You may get tips and advice that will help you strengthen your application. For instance, if the person you're speaking with keeps using a particular buzzword, you might want to include it in your cover letter. This is a great way of understanding the buzzwords or integrating job or industry specific verbiage into your resume and or cover letter. But especially if they're using it and it's a buzzword, you know that it's more than likely more current and it will help you to demonstrate knowledge in the area. Now, how do you conduct information interviews? Of course, we've been talking about it all the time, but I wanted to give you some more specific ways to look at what this interview actually looks like. You should regard each interview as a business appointment and could conduct yourself in a professional manner always. Always remember, professional etiquette is important and it should remain high on your list. Be sure to make your intentions very clear when you have the informational interview, and be sure not to cross boundaries to go outside of what you have stated is your intention behind the actual interview. Your appointment time is really important. You want to make sure that you're there on time. I always say you want to be there at least 15 minutes before the actual interview start. Unless it is virtual. And if it's virtual, you still want to be prepared and ready to go at least 10 minutes prior to the actual appointment. How you dress is important. You don't want to be too casually dressed. And you also don't want to be dressed as if you were actually the candidate and you're being interviewed. So it's going to be a nice balancing act. But if you are not sure, you want to make sure you caution, you side on the level of being cautious. And that would be, I would prefer that you are dressed more professional than too casual. And so that's important to remember. You want to make sure that you remember and know the name of the person you're meeting. So you want to know the correct pronunciation of the person's name. If you are not sure, get clarity of that before you actually meet with this person. Do some research on them and their company. So you're not just looking at the company, but you also want to Google them. You want to find out as much as you can about them. They may actually have a LinkedIn page. If you found this person just by going to their work website, they may actually have a LinkedIn page that you can go to and look at and find out more about them prior to actually meeting with them. So again, you're coming with questions, you're prepared to steer the conversation. Be sure to be considerate of their time. Aim to keep the conversation 15 to 30 minutes. Unless you agreed on a time frame beforehand. Remember this, if you remember nothing else, your contact might ask you questions as well. So be ready with your elevator pitch. And so your elevator pitch is the way that you introduce yourself to people that you just meet. It's a brief pitch, which includes perhaps your credentials, your experiences, your passion if it's related to the industry. And it's just a way of communicating who you are professionally. Please remember not to include personal information in your elevator pitch. Unless it is directly related to the services that you provide, you do not want to put personal information in your elevator pitch, such as your marital status, the amount of children or grandchildren that you have. Anything that's considered personal, you want to make sure that it is removed from your elevator pitch, that you've practiced your pitch with a couple of people and that you feel confident about delivering. Another aspect of what you need to focus on is preparing for the actual interview. Now, when I'm talking about preparing for the interviewing, I am now shifting to not the informational interview, but the job interview. Okay, so before you even get to the place where you're going out and you're actually getting interviews, you've completed your resume, you've completed informational interview. So the next steps for you is now you're preparing yourself for your job interview. So You want to do this. You want to participate in a mock interview to polish your interviewing skills, to get some feedback on what it is you should or should not be doing. You want to pay attention to your body language in these mock interviews, your professional attire. And some ways to do this would be to make sure you research interview questions, just general interview questions. The question that I often get people express to me that they're uncomfortable about is the tell me about yourself question. Sometimes with this question, well, a lot of times with this questions, people will go into personal identifiers of who they are. And we don't want you to do that, as I stated in the earlier screen, on the earlier screen. You really want to keep everything professional. What are your strengths? You know, it might be easy to talk about what your strengths are, but how about your weaknesses? Have you decided what that's going to look like? Because while it may be a weakness, you don't want to present, you will present it as a weakness, but it'll still be a strength, more or less. So an example of that would be, as a counselor, I could say, you know, one of my strengths tend to be, I really like helping and supporting people. And at times I have to step back and allow them to do more of the work in that counseling process so they can benefit from it, but they can also become empowered, as opposed to me taking on too much in the counseling process and actually keeping them from being able to identify what that counseling process should look like. So, yeah, I presented it as a weakness, but you know, would a company consider that a weakness if you have to work with others? You know, a lot of times they won't. Why should we hire you? You need to really think about why they should hire you. You know, what makes you a better candidate over the next person? The truth be told, when candidates are being presented in the interviewing process, the last 2 or 3 candidates that are chosen, they have similar credentials. So you want to be able to help them establish those unique traits about yourself that helps you stand apart from the competition. Now, you also want to be aware that you may be asked a behavior-based question. This is a question where they're asking you about previous experience and what you did under that particular situation, so that they can identify if you have the skills that are needed to operate in the role that you are applying for. So a lot of those questions would look like, you know, team building, problem solving. It could be customer service. It could be anything that they choose that's related to your particular field. And so even if it's something that they ask you in relation to, tell me about a time when you helped to solve a discrepancy in the medical process or medical billing process and procedures. You know, it may be something just as specific as that, or it could be something like team building, which is not as specific, but they just may ask you the question, tell me about a time when you operated in the role of a leadership, just to see what skill set that you have, if you are a person who knows how to take initiative and how do you help others in the process of being a team player. And so the way that we say that you want to respond to those questions is you're going to use the STAR method, STAR, which stands for you give them a situation, you tell them the task at hand, the action that you took, and the results of that action. If you were to follow that method, That will help you give them enough information for them to determine whether or not you are a good fit for that actual position that you are applying for. You want to make sure that you research your hiring companies. And I just put on here a few links that will take you to some of the companies that are hiring and what they're hiring for. It's as simple as you put it in the search bar and actually being able to locate a position that way. Let's see if it'll allow me. Okay. Well, this is not. Okay, so you can see here some positions that come up. So in essence, this portion of it is like the ONET where you can find positions in different areas. However, I will say, even though I pulled this up and I did find it to be helpful, my first go-to would actually be the ONET online. However, it still is a great tool to be able to use. Okay, then last but not least is you want to develop a job search strategy. So with a job search strategy, and then you want this to be either a written document or digital document that you actually put all of your information on, and that you're when I say all of your information, the information relating to you tracking your job search process and the results. So you're going to record things like where you are applying, what resume and cover letter you submitted for that actual position. Did you get a call for an interview? All of these are pertinent things that should actually be on your job search strategy. Of course, you can add additional items. However, this is just a way to give you an idea of some of the things that need to actually be incorporated on your sheet. So some of the final tips. Remember, it is important to send thank you notes to employers with whom you interview and to your references. Also, you want to send it to informational interviewees as well. Identify resources like onetonline.org because this website will help you with many aspects of what is next for you, such as the creation of your resume and cover letter, getting prepared for a mock interview, finding other potential job opportunities, completing a mock interview. That is going to be the next step. And that's going to be huge because that's where you're going to actually engage with someone and going to role play what the interview should look like. You'll be able to, the person that you're doing the mock interview with will be able to identify areas of strength for yourself as well as areas of weakness. We'll give you advice, strategies, and tips on how to be successful on an interview. And last but not least, I want you to take the time to look at some videos on informational interviewing just to get you acclimated to what it should look like. I was going to show a quick snippet of an informational interview. And I just want to make sure that you guys can see it. So we're gonna.
An informational interview is an amazingly powerful tool. It can help you learn about different types of work you're interested in. And by providing inside perspective, it may even connect you to opportunities you couldn't see from the outside. So let's take a look at what informational interviewing is all about. An informational interview is not a job interview, and it's not a tricky way to get a job. If you're asking for a job and they do have one, then they'll likely start judging whether you're a good fit. And if they don't have one, then that conversation ends there. The key to a successful informational interview is curiosity. Your curiosity, good questions about the interviewee's life and experience, you gain insights into their successes and failures, how they got where they are, and what's important to them. Your curiosity will lead to an authentically engaged conversation, which also opens the door for the interviewee to get curious about you. The professional you're speaking with might say something like, wow, you're asking some really good questions. And in that transition, informational interviewing becomes even more valuable for someone looking for work. Informational interviews give you an opportunity to see what kinds of work resonate with you and help you determine what communities you would like to be a part of. In a good informational interview, the professional you speak with gets a lot out of the conversation too. They get to discuss their life and their work with someone who's curious about their experience and values their expertise. Plus, they get the pleasure of talking with someone who's genuinely interested in what they do. How do you do it well? Here are 5 tips to get you started. First, your homework. Take some time to research LinkedIn or other online platforms to learn about the professional you're interviewing. Consider what questions you have about their life and work. The second tip is to try to meet in person. On the phone is okay, but face-to-face is best. 3, always try to buy the coffee or lunch. Your interviewee is giving you their time. Paying is a good way of showing your appreciation and beginning to create a connection. 4, ask your interviewee who else they recommend you talk with. If the interview has gone well, they may be willing to connect you to other professionals you can learn from and who might have opportunities for you. Finally, tip number 5, after the interview, send a thank you. Email is okay, but a handwritten note is even better. And if they ask you to keep them posted on your progress, do so.
Okay. So.
I cannot believe how much more productive my writing sessions have become since I started using Grammarly, especially as a non-native English speaker.
So on that note, I am going to ask, are there any questions for me based on the presentation?
Thank you so much, Dartina, for your valuable presentation. I don't think that we have any questions from the audience at this time. But if we do have any questions, you will find Dartina's contact information in the chat, and you can always reach out to Continuing Education should you have any questions. That's continuinged@govst.edu. Thank you so much, Dartina.
You're so welcome.